Welcome into LFFL Prime Time. That's right, the only show dedicated to the LFFL and all in just 5 minutes. So remember, before I get cranked in here, playoffs, we changed this rule a few years ago. All ties broken by points scored. No more head-to-head. So keep that in mind as we kind of walk through some of these scenarios. Starting the original league, got Phil over Todd, Greg over Bill, Matt over Andy, Eric over Josh, and I was able to beat Miles. Todd and I sitting in an 8-3 tie in first. Both Todd and I have already clinched playoff spots. Bill and Phil sit both at 7-4. Both are in the win and in scenario. A win in either of the last two games will get it done. Andy, Greg, Eric, and Matt all at 5-6, all tied. Again, the order they're in on these standings are in the order of points scored. So Andy has the most points scored of the 5 and 6 teams, and Greg the next most. But it's actually pretty tight across the board there. Josh and Miles both looking like it's probably about time to start thinking about next year. Looking at the Week 12 matchups, Josh is facing off with Miles. Josh did win their first meeting last year. Todd is facing off with Andy. Todd won earlier this season and now holds the 15-12 lead in the series. Matt facing off with Eric. Eric has won 5 straight in the series, including earlier this season, and now has tied the series 25-25. Greg facing off with Phil in the Kaufman Battle Royal. Phil won earlier this season. However, Greg holds the 16-15 lead in the series. And finally, I am facing off with Bill. I won earlier this season. However, just like the other series, Bill does hold the 15-13 lead in that series. Good luck to everyone this week. LFFL 2, we had Miles over the Merrills. Todd over Greg, Eric on a close one over Andy. Bill beat Sean, and Phil destroyed me. Bill sits on top at 9-2. Eric just a game back at 8-3. Greg at 7-4. Sean and Todd at 6-5. And in the second division, I am leading the way at 5-6. Andy and Miles at 4-7. Phil and the Merrills all at 3-8. Looking at this week, Todd facing off with the Merrills. Andy facing off with Miles. But your big headline here is top two going at it. Bill versus Eric. Huge game for Bill. Bill wins this game. He's up 2 with just 5 to play. Sean facing off with Phil, and then Greg facing me. In the LFFL 3, we still have not had any playoff spots clinched. Matt Brennan beat Bill to deny him a playoff spot. Miles beat Andy. Phil beat Greg. Matt Merrill beat Eric, and I was able to beat Todd. You look here, we got 7-4 teams. Phil, Miles, Bill, all in with a win this week. Matt Merrill and Eric sitting at 6-5. Matt Brennan, myself, Greg, and Andy all at 5-6. Again, those are in the order of points scored. Matt Brennan has the most. I have the second most. I finally tied 2-9 out of it. Miles is facing off with Bill this week. Todd's facing off with Eric. Matt Brennan with Greg, Matt Merrill, and Andy, and Phil facing myself. In the LFFL 4, congratulations to Greg. Second win this season. 14th win of his career. Holding off Phil at the very end. Phil has the old Buffalo Bills debate. Second straight week, he has been in it right to the end, only come in second. Would you rather come in second every week, or would you rather be where I am with 126 points in 8th place? So up to you. For the season, Greg has opened a little bit of a lead. Matt Brennan, Bill, Eric, myself, Nate, Phil, all of us still very much in play. LFFL 5, last week of the regular season, our playoff are basically set. Sean beat Slick, Eric beat Andy, Todd beat Miles, Greg beat Phil, Bill beat me. Greg, Eric, and Andy are all in. Bill is basically in unless the earth falls apart here. Bill's got about 250-point lead on Phil, so unless he forgets to set a lineup, Bill will be your 4th playoff team starting week 13. This week in week 12 got Eric versus Phil, Greg versus Andy, Bill versus Miles, Todd versus Sean, and Slick versus myself. In the LFFL 6, no changes. All the current monthly leaders are the same. Standings are more or less exactly the same. Todd, myself, and Greg all sit in 1, 2, 3. Bill moved up the most from 7th to a big tie for 4th. But that was less than a full point move. So over here in the LFFL 7, Josh, your eliminated team, just ahead of, just below Todd, I should say. Todd, with a bold strategy, went without the quarterback this week. Only drafted one, Josh Allen, and Josh Allen was on bye this week. Still made it through, thankfully, because Josh had Jimmy Garoppolo and Drew Brees, not helping him. No matter what happens this season, though, Josh will have the second most weeks without an elimination when you combine the two seasons, which is a cool record. Todd will have the most, and Josh will have the second most. So I think it's a really cool thing. Congratulations, Josh. Well done in this league. And finally, we have our Player of the Year leaderboard. We have a new leader. Look at this. Bill Berardi on top. His moves in the best ball were just enough to get him to the finish line here. Todd and I tied in second. Greg in 4th. I still maintain one of the 4 of those teams on top will be your Player of the Year. So, hey, good luck this week. Get those Thanksgiving lineups set.